Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes,
All right,
that's
perfect.
good.
Is it cool if I jump right in?
Yes, please do. And
All
thank
right,
you.
awesome. Your title is the creative director of character design at Sesame Workshop.
Yes.
First off, what is the Sesame Workshop and what exactly do you do in your role?
Sesame Workshop is the nonprofit organization that produces Sesame Street. So as a creative director, I design all the new Muppets whenever they have to establish a fixed character, because we have the anything Muppets that can be mixed and matched, kind of like Mr. Potato Head. But when we need a definite character, I get to design those. I direct the photo shoots, which means that I get to actually pose the Muppets um, and hire the photographers and, work directly with the Jim Henson Company, which is, another part of my dream that came true. And I teach artists all over the world. In fact, I just finished doing a series of teaching videos for artists because, a lot of the times they don't have the same kind of training that we have here. So I made this series of videos on a PDF of how to draw the characters, not for general consumption, but for specifically for the professionals that we're training in different parts of the country, because we're an international company. So that's a big deal part. Gee, and I have a lot of fun. That's another part of my job. It really is. It's a dream come true. It really is.
That's really awesome to hear. What inspired you to pursue a career with a Sesame Workshop?
Well, when I was a kid, there was a show called The Ed Sullivan Show, and I don't know, you familiar with The Ed Sullivan Show?
I've heard it, but I haven't seen
Yeah.
it.
No, I mean, you probably couldn't. It was a long, long, long time ago. But when I was a kid, the Muppets made a lot of appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show. So, and whenever that happened, I would do a running slide in front of the TV because that was my time. But one time, and whenever Jim Henson came out afterwards to greet Ed Sullivan, I didn't care about him either because I didn't know who that was. Again, I was like 6 years old. But one day he came out and it was a skit where Kermit the Frog was, well, he wasn't a frog yet. He was more like a lizard-like character, but it was still Kermit. He's playing the piano and the piano ate him. And I loved it. But then after that, Jim Henson came out and he still had Kermit on his arm. And that's when I said, you mean a man was doing that? It didn't dawn on me. 6 years old back then is a lot different than 6 years old now. So it just blew my mind. It never went away. I would draw the characters, I would even steal my sister's socks and, I never told them, but I would make my own puppets. I was just mesmerized. And it's something snapped and never snapped back. So all the way through school, I would, when Sesame Street came on, I started watching, even though I was a lot older than the kids it was made for. I still, watched the show because I loved the Muppets so much. And then, then the Muppet Show came on and Fraggle Rock. It was just such a like a wealth of all these Muppet things. So when I got to college, I said, maybe I can work for Jim Henson, maybe even on Sesame Street. Because I remember watching the first episode and seeing the claymation. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I saw the claymation at the beginning and I said, wow, that's really good. And when I kept watching, I saw the same kind of puppets that were on the Ed Sullivan Show, and it turned out to be Jim Henson. So I went ahead and I asked my professor in college. I said, well, I really want to work for Jim Henson on Sesame Street. And of course, a lot of teachers they don't bring a lot of encouragement. He says, oh, Louis, you're aiming way too high. You're never going to get that job. You got to aim lower so you can achieve these goals. And so I was moping around the house, and my mother didn't allow that because she made my life a wonder world. She really did do so many wonderful things for me. But I had my chores to do and things like that, but she was always encouraging. So she saw me moping around. What's the matter with you? I said, well, because I told her everything. I said, that man with the puppets that I wanted to work for. Well, my teacher said I'll never get the job. And she said, well, tell me something. Does he work for that man? I said, no. Well, don't listen to him. He doesn't even work for that man. If they don't want you, let them tell you. But don't listen to somebody that doesn't even work there. So it still took a while to get there because he was my hero teacher. And then, but by the time I got through, it took me about 8 months till I finally found the right person. And I remember that last day I was gonna drop off my portfolio and I was gonna just say, if I don't get something from here, something real, a real job, because they kept saying they loved my work, but they had no work for me. But I just kept trying. And this wonderful woman, Jennifer Lupinacci, the assistant behind the desk, She kept saying, Louis, don't give up. I'll figure out who to give your portfolio to. And I told her that last day, I said, Jennifer, if I don't get something this time, I'm not even going to come back and get the portfolio. So she tried to talk me into it, but I was, fixed on that. But by the time I got home, there was a call from a man named Jim Mahan, who's still a dear friend of mine. He says, I heard your name going around, but I hadn't seen your work, but I saw it now, and I'd love to get you started on a project. And I couldn't believe it. I tell people all the time I wore that tape out because that was back when they were cassette tapes on the answering machine. I wore that tape out listening. Is this for real? After 8 months of trying and my last day about to give up, that's when I get the call. It was so great. And, that's really what it was. Just seeing them on the Ed Sullivan Show and something that thing turned on. I can't even explain it. Just something turned on when I was 6 years old. In fact, I have a picture of myself at 6 years old on my desk and at home because that's my mentor. That's the person that's when I became me, and really launched into the fullness of everything that I get to do.
That's an incredible story.
Thank you.
It's really disheartening that we have teachers that do that to us, but it's good that your mother was there to encourage you and to almost force you to go
No,
for
no, no, not for no. I can't take that because she never fought. She understood me so well. Like she saw when I was starting to learn how to draw different things. She like I was trying to draw animals, and I would use the newspaper or magazines. And then one day, I look under one of the tables in the living room, the lamp table, and there's a box under there. So I take it out and I open it up without asking permission because she knew me. I was a nosy kid. I open it up and there's this encyclopedia of animals. This four volume set. I said, Mom, did you know this was here? Oh, yeah, I know. I bought a few. I figured you'd find it eventually. And she did that a lot. When I was learning how to play ragtime music on the piano, and I love Scott Joplin. Maple Leaf Rag is like my favorite rag of all. One day I come home from school and, I'm just looking around, and I'm trying to look at some music because I love music of all kinds. But when I'm looking in the record rack, I found a box set of Scott Joplin. I said, Mom, did you know this was? I said, yeah, I know. She did that so many times.
Oh,
So,
I love that. Um, when you're creating these new Muppets, do you keep the 6-year-old you in mind?
oh, I never leave that 6 year old. I'm always there. Forget about how I look. I stay there, and I mean that because I, it's not just in my artwork. It's in life in general. When you look at life through the lens of the child that's that inner child that people say, I believed it very much in that. My son when he was only 6 years old too. We were walking to school one day, and normally we'd be singing and laughing and everything, but I was really fixated on a deadline. So as we're walking, he wants to show me the birds and things he sees, but then his favorite flowers are the morning glories. And we're passing, he says, Dad, look, morning glories. I said, yeah, Mike, yeah. And I'm kind of yanking him so I can get back to my deadline. And he says, no, Dad. He yanked my arm real hard. Don't you miss this? And that, again, another one of those moments that changed my life. That's why on the cover of my book, Qreative Evolution, there's a morning glory on the cover. That was the request of the publisher because they love that story so much.
Oh, I
So
love that.
that's 6 years. 6 years old for me is a magic number. So that's why I remain there. It's very rare. Look, this is what I say. Adulting is what we do, but it's not who we are. We're supposed to remain, buoyant and want to explore things and even want to play, have fun, and kids get serious too. They want to understand, so they want to learn something, but they're learning from a different heart. It's like a real deep desire to understand something. And like when children play, I say this all the time. Play is serious business for children. That's how they learn a lot of different things in life. We're not supposed to stop that. That's what happens. A lot of people, they kind of let go of that child inside and they become, kind of rigid and frustrated. And the thing is, with my job, I'm still doing the same thing I was doing. I was six, drawing the Muppets. Well, I'm still doing that.
That's actually a really excellent segue into your debut book, Creative Evolution: How to Question Everything to Find Your Creative Fulfillment. Um, First off, what is this creative evolution?
Creative evolution means we're always evolving. The word evolution, it means something new that hadn't been there before. Like when, like when they talk about the biological evolution, like a creature that started one way, you see it later on, has nothing to do with what it started as. So it's like a complete um, becoming something new. And creatively, I believe that that's something that we can explore all the time because the premise of the book is that everyone is an artist creating their lives with every moment. So why not be deliberate about that? Why not deliberately create your life so that way you can influence the outcome in your favor? Because a lot of times people just kind of wait to see what's happening when they're actually even that decision is a form of creating a life. You just given up the opportunity to actually influence the direction. I mean, you can't control it, but you can certainly influence your life, thinking of it as a work of art and moving in that direction all the time, constantly not hovering over, watching over it like some kind of a maniac, but certainly engaging in your own life. That's the kind of thing that I really want to come across. So that's what the evolution comes from. Most people don't think that way. You evolve into being that creative, and then your life takes a whole nother turn. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, no, it seems like the norm is that we evolve into these 9 to 5ers that are kind of miserable.
No, we
So,
devolve because the kids know the kids are great, but we devolve into that adult thing that I was talking about, that 9 to 5, that people hating their jobs. Since when are we supposed to hate our jobs? No, we're not supposed to do that. But I know it's. I'm not saying it's easy because I've done jobs I hated, but that's why I learned how to get out of that and do what I love.
um, creative evolution, the creative begins with a Q. Can you explain why that is?
Yes, I want to encourage everybody to question everything, good or bad. You're always question. Questions are not. They're like launch pads because the more you question, the more you seeking the answers, and the questions never really end because the minute you wake up, even the whole day is a question. You don't know what's going to happen. You can influence it, but you don't really know what's going to happen. So if you live with a series of questions, I call it creative gravity. You're being moved in a certain direction. If you ask legitimate questions in line with the way you want your life to turn out, then you'll definitely ask the kind of questions that keep you moving in your own specific creative, what I just say, the creative gravity.
With this book, and with it being a self-help book, can you kind of like take me through kind of like the outline of the book a little bit? Like, is this something where it's like you give us like activities and things to do, or is it more of like a meta think piece? Can you just
It's a little
describe?
bit of both. It's a little bit of everything because again, it's none of these are theories. These are all life lessons I learned from my own life. And I call them trusts instead of chapters. I mean, they are chapters, but they're called the evolutionary trust. So creative evolution is the first trust. Then we have creative um, practice. I mean, evolutionary practice, evolutionary um, wisdom, evolutionary knowledge. I keep going throughout all the different chapters, trying to take a life lesson that I learned and really expand on it. I tell a story. Each chapter kind of begins with or has a story built into it to really let people know where I got this life lesson from. Because you read a lot of self-help books, and I like to think of it as self-guidance rather than self-help. There's a difference to me. But a lot of times people tell all these, give all this advice or, you know, give all these life lessons, but you don't really know where it came from or who they really, really are. So I was very vulnerable. I talk about the challenges I've had, the hardships. My father did not want me to be an artist, and he made sure I knew. But it wasn't until I got the job at Sesame Street because he told me, just like my teacher, Sesame Street, you're never going to get that job. And he didn't mean it in a bad way. He just didn't want me to starve because a lot of the starving artist cliche.
Right.
So when I got the job, he said something I never thought anybody ever thought they'd hear him say. He says, "I guess I was wrong," and that was it. Our relationship changed from that moment on. Sesame Street has brought me so many wonderful things, but that's one of the biggest ones of all. My father admitting he was wrong, and us becoming really good friends till the day he died. But yeah, so I just talk about like how to be more confident. People tell people all the time that, you should be confident, you should be confident, but it's not a light switch. So I talk about how to do that in the book. I talk about how, people always talk about their flaws and how they said, but that's an illusion. And I talk about that in the book. I also talk about your tribe, the tribe meaning the people that are in your corner for you, that are supporting you and guiding you through your process. Because there are some people that they love you, they care about you, but they try to protect you from your process, meaning that, if you're trying to do something and you fall flat on your face, they would say, see, I told you you shouldn't have done that. But there are people in your tribe that will tell you that, oh, you fell? Well, let me help you up. Let's see, why did you fall? Let's try to figure that out. And that's, to me, that's the tribe, the people that really believe in you and will support you through, not from, but through the process, regardless of what it is. And I really expand on that in this because that's very important to me. I've had a lot of people in my life that were really difficult to deal with because they didn't believe in what I was doing. Then I had other people like my mom. I call her the king, not the queen. She's the king of my vision. And yeah, so there are people that really believe. My eighth grade art teacher, I talk about her. I dedicated this book to my mom and my eighth grade art teacher, Mrs. Landau, because she was like my second mom. And she was extraordinary for me when I was like just in the eighth grade when I first met her. The kinds of things that she would encourage me with just blew my mind. I half the time I couldn't even hear her because my head went numb. Said she believes in me enough to share that with me. So the people have been tremendous. I value that tribe very much. So
No,
hope that
that's
makes sense.
it does, it does.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Um, and like it just kind of got my head thinking of like just all the things that stop me from being creative and from questioning and kind of playing it safe with like this is what I know is going to work out for me kind of thing. And um part of what makes this your book so much needed and what makes us evolving so hard is starting in the first place. So, what is something that you would say to people, or maybe a piece of advice that you could give to get us to start the journey?
Well, first off, this is something I say in the book, but I tell people all the time. Advice is sacred. I don't give advice unless I know I've earned the place to give advice. But I can tell people what I did. That's not really advice. That's just living by example. If something's relatable and you can use it, fine. But for me to give advice, I have to find out what the challenges are, what the loves are, what the desire is, and then I can earn my way to give advice. Um, but the thing is, a lot of times people can't get started because they don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. And that's a common thing. A lot of times people don't know what their purpose in life is. So I tell people all the time, if you don't know what your purpose is, it's very clear what it actually is. That means your purpose is you. You have to go back and try to make yourself into the person that you know you can be. Whether it's your health, because I had type 2 diabetes and I was able to reverse it thanks to my son. My son is a big star in the book. And yeah, so that's the whole idea. If you don't know what your purpose is, it's because everybody has a purpose. I really believe that. But it may be blocked. You may be distracted from that because of maybe there are things in your life that aren't working. So you have to pursue yourself and make yourself your purpose in life. As you do that, the improvements start to develop, and then you'll start to see more and more about what it is you're here to do, what your vision is, what your purpose in life is. So until you know that, you are your purpose. And that's good because then you can really, make things work in your favor. Nothing's going to be perfect, of course not, but the more you take care of yourself and become your best friend, which is one of the things they say in the book too. I am my best friend. I love me, but that made me better at loving other people. That's what happened.
No, that's absolutely wonderful. Um, it made me think of you can't pour from a cup that's empty.
That's
So,
good. Like that. I'm
um,
one of those people. I'm also like, people say, is the glass half empty or half full? So I'm not interested in either one of those. I want my cup to overflow so I can share with everybody.
And that's what you're doing with your book.
Thank you.
Um, and your book is available now. Where can we purchase it?
Well, Blackstone Publishing is the publisher, so you can go directly to their website. You can get it on Amazon.com. You can get it on BarnesandNoble.com. Audible has the audiobook, which they actually asked me to do the audiobook, and I'm so grateful that because I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to be pushy. But then, they sent me three voices, three actors, and it seemed like they sound right, but they don't feel right. I said, "Can you send me some more?" Then they said, "We've been looking online and saw a few of your talks. Would you be willing to do it?" And I got my wish without even asking. I got my wish.
That's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
the audiobook is available on Audible only right now.
All right. And if we want to keep up with your work, Sesame Workshop's work, Sesame Street in general, where can we follow you? Where should we be looking?
For me, you can look on LinkedIn. It's Lewis Henry Mitchell, and just pop that in. I'm sure I'll pop up. I tried and I haven't seen any other Lewis Henry Mitchells, so I'm the one and only right now. SesameWorkshop.org is a great website that you can go to and dig in and learn just about everything. It's a very robust site that they've been working on for many years. And that's something else that's always evolving because every time we make a leap or we shift gears to be even more engaging and more engaged, we update the website. So I'm very proud of that website. You'll see a lot of my artwork on there because, again, being the creative director of the character design, where I actually do artwork as well, but also I direct the photo shoots. And almost every photograph that you see on that line online is a photograph that I directed, unless there's a human with it. If there's a human with it, that means it was a location shoot. But anytime you see the Muppets by themselves, 9.999 times out of 10, it's my photograph.
Awesome. Um, I have to ask because I know I'll hate myself if I don't. Are you working on any new Muppets right now? Is there anything that we can be excited for?
Well, that's one of the things we don't really talk about what we're doing because so many things are in development. We align with the Board of Education Department of Education to think about what the kids are going to be learning. We try to align with that as much as possible. There's a lot of research that goes into this. So we really don't talk about anything new that we're working on. But I guess the newest thing I'm working on right now is to making sure that the artists all over the world have the resources to be able to do. Because look, the children's books I review a lot of children's books, so I'm looking at artists all over the world. They're good artists, but drawing these characters, is very, very subtle things that have to be consistent. So that's why I created this how to draw guide so that because when I get back, I have to do what's called blue lining, meaning I'll put a layer in Photoshop. I'll put an opaque layer, well, a translucent layer over their artwork, and I'll take a stylus and correct the artwork and show them what it is. But now that they're going to have this resource, it'll probably still need some blue lining, but it's going to come back a lot better. And we've already done the test. We've already done the test. Sorry about that. We've done the test, and it came back tremendous. I couldn't believe the quantum leap. Some of the illustrators that I almost said, they're just not ready. So you know what? Let me see what happens after they get the test. And when I got back, I couldn't believe it. I got kind of choked up, to be honest with you. I said, this is going to work. So that's when we said, we got to do a whole guide. We can't do every Muppet character, but we can do all the classic ones. And that's what I'm doing right now. That's the main thing I'm doing right
That's so cool. Awesome. Those are all of the questions that I had. But is there anything else that you'd like to add about the Sesame Workshop or your book?
now. I'm surprised you didn't ask me who my favorite Muppet was, because everybody asked that question. Well, it's Cookie Monster. He's not just my favorite Muppet character. He's my favorite character of all time because he loves his friends more than cookies, and he would give away his last cookie to his friend. That's when I grow up, and I probably never will. That's what I want to be, Cookie Monster. But yeah, the book is it's my life's work, and it's not just about how I grew in Sesame Street because I've been here a long time since 1992, and I've learned a lot. I've done a lot, but I really branched beyond this because I didn't make this my life. I love it. It's wonderful. It's a dream come true, a goal achieved, but it's not my life. That's why I intend to use Creative Evolution as the foundation to an upcoming podcast series. And that I want to lead that into my art school, a very, very unique art school that I'm planning to, because it's not about creating art, it's about being an artist. So I can speak to artists of all kinds. I can speak to chefs. I can speak to dancers, and I've done that. I've gone to different places, and when people ask, like, if I went to a dance school not too far away from me, I go to the Art Students League in New York City, and I still go now. In fact, I'm going today later on. But when there was a dance school right next to it, and I went in there, and I said, "Would it be okay if I just did some sketching?" And the teachers were fine with it. But then the girls came up and they said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just sketching. I got permission from the teacher to draw you on. You're doing a wonderful job. And they sort of asked, well, why do you do that? And I told them about Sesame Street, and they all scream and everything like that. And then I start talking to them more about my art. And then eventually, after talking about the principles and the different approaches to art, they say, well, that sounds like a dance school. I said, well, in a way it is, because it's not about the dancing. It's about who you are as a dancer. I went to a school, the Art Institute, I believe it is, the cooking division. Because a friend of mine, she couldn't take her daughter, so I said I'll take her. So I took her daughter to class, and then I'm starting to talk to those students. And then after a while, they asked, "So is this a cooking school?" I said, "In a way, it is, but it's not really." And then I explained what it is. I said it's about being the chef. The chef is an artist. The culinary arts are just as much of an art as a dancer or writer or painter. It's just a different way of going about doing it. That's why the artist had to be prepared to approach it from the depths of who they are with free and total abandon, tapping into that creative gravity and respecting the creative muse. So, photography, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not about the art, it's about the artist. And that's what the foundation of Creative Evolution is. And it's actually, I'm hoping to get the other two books out because it's a trilogy as far as I'm concerned. But we'll see how that goes.
Well, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Thank you.
And I have a feeling that it will help out quite a few people.
That's the whole reason why I'm doing it. I never set out to do any of this stuff. It's just that people kept asking me questions and they started saying, you should write a book. You should start a school. You should teach a class. And at first I'm just waving it off, but after a while, it kept happening wherever I was in the world. I do a lot of traveling too. I said, I think I'm being called to something here. I can't just ignore it anymore. I have to actually take that seriously. That's when I started to think about first of all a school, because that was what most people asked for. I wrote a whole curriculum and said, you know what? I think it should start as a book. And during the pandemic, I got really depressed and felt bad. And, a lot of people did. But I said, for whatever reason, I'm still here. I knew two people that passed away during COVID. Well, three really, but two of them had COVID. And I said, for whatever reason, not to take anything away from them, but I'm still here. And I have to find out why. Because I was really depressed and I didn't recognize myself. So I became my own purpose. Even though I already had a purpose, it wasn't enough. So I went back inside to find out what I was supposed to do, not what I'm doing, but who am I and what I'm supposed to do. And it started to unfold. That's when I wrote the proposal for Creative Evolution. Sent, asked a friend to take a look at it. He showed it to his agent. And within a day and a half, I had an agent. And they told me it could take a while before we get a bite from the publishers. I had four publishers fighting over it, within 4 months. And it went like in that showed me this was supposed to happen because my agent told me this doesn't happen like this. Doesn't happen fast like this. Even the people attending the initial meetings, the CEO showed up. That doesn't happen, she told me. I didn't know, but I'm glad she told me. So, so I guess the ultimate thing is that school because the school has a lot of different things that I'm going to be teaching from that. And I'm hoping I can tap with other teachers to see if they can also assist because I'm not just trying to have my own vision out there. And there are other people that I agree with about their approaches. So we'll see if we can make a connection. So it's very exciting.
No, it sounds like it. Is the school up and running yet, or is it still in the process?
Not actually. Well, the thing is, during the pandemic as well, there were a lot of young people that tried to get internships, and they wanted to get a Sesame Street internship. And I think two of them got approved, but then the pandemic shut everything down. And one of them got particularly depressed because she really, really wanted it. So with the credentials that I have, I said, look, you know what? You can still get credit for this if you work with me a one-on-one. We'll have an independent study over Zoom, and I worked it out with her college, and she got credit for it. So I consider that was back in 2020. I consider that the beginning of my school. I actually started teaching. I've been teaching all over the place for a long time, but that was more official. And I had to create a whole curriculum for the entire summer. Was it 9 weeks or something like that altogether? So I do consider that's when I actually launched the school.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for chatting.
Oh, thank you.
I'm very much looking forward to reading your book and the trilogy as a whole. And
Thank you.
so, uh, very inspiring words. So thank you for
So
that.
when will this be available?
I
This
am going to edit it this weekend and should be available next week.
Wow, nice. And that's great because my official book launch is happening next Wednesday. The New York Public Library requested to be the host of my book launch, which blew me away. So yeah, July 16th at 6:30 in the New York Public Library.
I will make sure that I put that in.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Well,
thanks again. I appreciate the opportunity and you've been great.
yeah, thank you for chatting. And I hope everything goes just as planned and we all start being more creative.
Ah, thank you. That's the perfect ending. Thank you, dear.
All right, have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.